just in a general sense, that your identity, who you are inside, will really create who you are on the outside. Yesterday was football day. For most of you, you have an identity on Saturday. Or on Friday night, you have an identity with connection to Lauderdale County. Basketball's about to begin, so the days will alternate. But the point is that in some way you have an identity. If you have a Lauderdale County baseball identity, as I have had much of, then you will sit in the cold with a heater. You will drive to ball games. You will pay the fee. You will sometimes have to rearrange your schedule in order, because what is inside just simply will be visible on the outside. That's all we're trying to say. You have an Alabama identity or an Auburn identity or a Tennessee or whatever. And that identity comes out. Comes out. Yesterday, those of you who would have an Alabama identity would not arrange something else during the LSU game last night. Okay? Why is that? Because your identity, what's going on in here and in here, predicates what you do on the exterior. That's all there is to it. Now, all I'm saying is, in every realm that fits your life, whether educationally, career-wise, team-wise, allegiance, all these things, some of you you've married into a certain family, and there is some weird thing that family does that now you have some kind of connection to, okay? That becomes your identity. Who you are will manifest itself in what you do. Identity creates choice of action. Okay. So just very briefly, let's think about that concept in the role of God's interaction with men. God formed the man. All the animals were brought to the man, you remember? And no suitable helper was found for the man. Now, what does that tell the man? What is God telling the man? You're better in my eyes than all these beasts. You're more valuable. There's something about you that's different. When I come to the garden, I'm not coming to see this cool snake I made. I'm not coming to see this awesome tree. I'm coming to see you. There is a strengthening of the identity. When there is a strengthening of the identity, then comes, it will always follow, okay? Then come rules. Then come expectations. Then come, hey, let's modify this. Abraham. I will be your God. I want to give you an identity. Because I know that if I give you a sense of identity with me, I will be able to lead you to where you will offer your son. Do you see? Where Abraham was and who he felt like he was in relationship to God is what prompted or allowed him ultimately to sacrifice his own child, Moses. Here's another example of the same thing. Moses comes down, grabs the people, right? The people of Abraham. He grabs the people and he pulls them up and he leads them out to this place. They've gone through the water and they leave the slavery. And then Moses says, or God speaks to the people. Remember what he says? He says, I am your God. Hello. I'm here. I'm the one that you've been seeing. I'm the one that's been preserving you in Egypt. I'm the one that planned for your departure. I will be your God. Identity. I'm going to be somebody that makes you important. Then comes. Now, let me tell you what I want you to do and what I want you not to do. Identity leads to action. Think about Jesus. When he selected those men, were they well groomed? Were they polished? Were they trained? No. What did he do? He selected 12 men to whom he gave the right to be in this very close, exclusive proximity to him. What is that doing? It's giving those men an identity. When they have security in that relationship and they know they belong to Christ, then Peter can say, get behind me, Satan. Then Jesus can say that to Peter. Then Jesus can say to James and John, no, we're not going to burn this place up. We're going to teach these people. We're going to love them. Then Jesus is able to lead them to where their actions then begin to demonstrate indirect connection to who they are. These men understood who they were, and therefore, because they understood who they were, it modified their behavior. Identity will create the choices that you make. So you can see that even further. Let's turn to 1 Thessalonians. 1 Thessalonians. First Thessalonians. Now, let's go to chapter 4, but I want you to, we're going to swing back here in just a minute. All right, look at all the behavior, okay? Look at all the, okay, you got to get and do this. This is chapter 4, verse 3, is God's will that you should be sanctified. Avoid sexual immorality. Verse 9, brotherly love. Only make this happen more and more. Verse 11 and 12. Be respectful of others and don't depend on other people. Verse 13 down through 18. In verse 18 he says, encourage each other with these words. In chapter 5, he says in verse 6, let us not be asleep but alert, self-controlled. Then in verse 12, he says, we want you, brothers, to respect those that are working hard among you, and we admonish you to hold them in the highest regard, live in peace with each other, and just continues to give a series of instruction. Now, let's back up and go to chapter 1. Go to chapter 1. Identity will generate, it will create your actions. Here's the identity. We thank God, verse 2. We thank God for all of you. Remembering you in our prayers, we remember before our God and Father your work produced by faith, your labor prompted by love, your endurance inspired by hope. Why is that? Why are they doing that? For we know, brothers, loved by God. See what he's doing? Loved by God. That he has chosen you. Because the gospel came to you not simply with words, but also with power, Holy Spirit and deep conviction. You know how we live. We became imitators. You became imitators of us. You welcomed us. Verse 7, so you became a model to all those who are in Macedonia. The Lord's message rang out, for they themselves, verse 9, report what kind of reception you gave, that you turned to God from idols to serve the living and true God, and to wait for his Son from heaven, whom he raised from the dead, Jesus who rescues. See what he's doing? He is taking these people and he is putting them in a very secure place. This is who you are with God. This is how God feels about you. This is how God looks at you. He thinks about you this way. But there's more. Not only does God feel this way, but even further, okay? And he talks about how God feels about them all the way into chapter 2, midway. But then at the end of chapter 2, around verse 17, he says, but brothers, when we were torn away from you for a short time, out of our intense longing, we made every effort to see you, for we wanted to come and see you. I did, Paul, I did. And he starts talking about all this need that he had. And then in verse 6, but Timothy has just now come. He has told us and brought us good news about your faith. They're excited and encouraged. All right, so here's the secure place that Paul is working from. Number one, that you're in a secure place with God. Number two, that you're in a secure place with me. I want you. I want to be a part of you. I want to hang out with you. I want to spend time with you. I want to help you. I want to pray with you. I want to grow with you. All right, now, identity, who you are, followed by, it will change your action. Now, maybe, with that principle in mind, maybe sometimes, even in our own lives or with respect to our own children, maybe we get the end of that thing in front of the identity. We want the behavior to be corrected. And so we address the behavior. Okay? The lying needs to stop. This needs to stop. This needs to stop. This needs to stop. This needs to stop. But all along in the biblical model, what you see is, here is who you are, which explains why you don't do this. Which is a beautiful way of God coming and trying to bring us into this knowledge of where we stand. So think about the comparison and try to implement it in your own life. I think you'll be blessed if you really try to grasp, because I have fought it, and sometimes I have failed. Sometimes I have so emphasized what the not to do to the point that I failed to emphasize who you are. Here's what not to do. Here's what not to do. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Okay. Why? A, this is who you are. See, there's just a simple beauty in this. You're this, which is why you don't act like this. Emphasize who you are. Emphasize who they are. Emphasize who your grandkids are. That's what you see. Jesus did. He said, you're mine. You're my disciples. Now let me teach you. Isn't that the same pattern that we see in making of disciples in Matthew 28, where Jesus said, go and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and then doing what? Teaching them what to do. See, who they are and who they become, and having that fully gripped in your mind will totally make it easier to aim for what you're supposed to do. It will. Who had to work hard to be an Alabama fan yesterday? Anybody? Andrew raised his hand, but I don't believe that. Nobody had to work hard to be an Alabama fan. You know why? Because it's your identity. It's who you are. It comes out. You will make arrangements. For some of you, it was in your DNA before you were even out of the womb. Now, what I'm trying to say is that in the same powerful way that Alabama football has the capacity to grip your life, that same idea is visible about your spiritual life. Who you are internally manages what you do, manages what you choose, manages where you go, it manages what you make time for. No true Alabama fan had to say to themselves, okay, well, I guess I got to make time for the game tomorrow night. Who did? Nobody. Your identity naturally carries that outward consequence. It will never be anything different. So it is with the spiritual. So, identity. It will cause your actions. So find your identity. Really don't care whether you're at Alabama or what you are. I don't care about your football preferences. But the only identity that really matters is having an identity with God. So focus on that. Good. That's it. The lunch lesson is ended. Deep breath. We're all here. So if you need to respond, you can. We're going to sing.